At my aunt's hotel opening in Bangkok, the ribbon-cutting scissors were handed to every investor, except me. "Don't worry," my cousin said. "You're practically family." I laughed. So did the staff, after texts about their new contracts. I had bought out suppliers, catering, and the land lease. Panic spread. Investors huddled around my aunt. I sipped my champagne. "Practically? No, darling. Legally." I touched the jade pendant hanging at my throat, my grandmother's last gift before she passed. "For luck," she'd said. I never needed it more than today. The Grand Bangkok Hotel was everything Aunt Lauren had promised, a gleaming testament to luxury rising above the Chao Phraya River. Marble floors reflected crystal chandeliers, and the scent of exotic flowers filled the air. I smoothed down my silk dress, purchased specifically for this moment, and took a deep breath. 4 years ago, when Lauren was desperate and drowning in debt after her divorce, I'd written that check for $250,000, nearly my entire inheritance from Grandma. "We'll be partners," she promised. "This is just the beginning." Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for being part of this incredible journey. If you're enjoying these stories of family business dynamics and calculated comebacks, consider subscribing. It's completely free and helps us share more tales of brilliant strategic victories like Brittany's. Let's dive into how one overlooked investor turned the tables on the aunt who betrayed her. Now I watched as Lauren, radiant in designer white, glided through the crowd of Thailand's elite. Her hair was perfectly coiffed, her smile dazzling as she greeted government ministers and international investors. "Brittany," she called, spotting me. Her embrace was warm but brief. "Don't you look lovely? Enjoy yourself. This is quite a moment." "It certainly is," I agreed, feeling a flutter of anticipation. The official ribbon-cutting ceremony would begin soon, and I'd rehearsed my brief thank you speech a dozen times on the flight from Singapore. A server appeared with champagne. I took a flute, scanning the room. The investors were gathering near the main entrance, where a red ribbon stretched across the grand doorway. Lauren was moving among them, handing out something. My heart quickened as I realized what was happening. In Thai tradition, having multiple people cut a ribbon simultaneously symbolized shared success. Lauren was distributing ceremonial scissors, beautiful silver ones with ribbons tied to the handles. I moved closer, expecting my turn. Mr. Tanaka from the Japanese investment group received his with a bow. The representative from the European hotel chain got hers with air kisses. Even the minor investors, people who'd come in last year with small contributions, were being handed their symbolic scissors. Then Lauren turned away. The distribution was complete. I stood frozen, champagne halfway to my lips. Had she somehow missed me? I scanned the group. Everyone who mattered held scissors, except me. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lauren's voice rang out. "Please take your positions for the ceremonial cutting." I approached quickly. "Lauren," I said quietly, "I think you forgot me." Her eyes met mine and something flickered there. Not surprise, but something calculated. "Oh, Brittany. This is for investors." "I am an investor," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the heat rising to my face. "The first investor." Lauren's smile didn't waver. "This is for current stakeholders, dear. Don't worry about it." Before I could respond, she was gliding away, positioning herself center stage. The cameras flashed as the group raised their scissors simultaneously, cutting the ribbon to thunderous applause. I stepped back, stunned. My champagne now tasted bitter. I'd been deliberately excluded, publicly sidelined from the moment that would appear in every business publication tomorrow. First time in Bangkok? I turned to find an elderly Thai man in an impeccable suit watching me with kind eyes. "No," I replied. "But it's been years. I used to visit when my aunt and I were establishing her first property." His eyebrows rose. "You helped with the Chiang Mai guest house?" I was under the impression Ms. Lauren built that herself after her divorce. "That's not exactly what happened," I said carefully. He introduced himself as Kun Prasert, the hotel's head concierge, recruited from one of Bangkok's oldest luxury establishments. As traditional dancers began performing in the center of the lobby, he shared stories about working with Lauren over the past year. "Ms. Lauren is very particular," he said diplomatically. His eyes darted to where she stood entertaining guests, then back to me. His expression changed subtly when she wasn't looking, a tightness around his mouth that spoke volumes. I noticed other staff members doing the same, smiling brightly when Lauren glanced their way, expressions falling when her attention moved elsewhere. The pattern was unmistakable once you noticed it. "The hotel is beautiful," I offered. "Yes," he agreed, though some of us were surprised by the changes to the original plans. Changes. The community spaces that were promised. The training program for local youth. They were removed from the final design. He hesitated. Much like the story of Chiang Mai seems to have been revised. Over the next hour as I mingled through the party, I sought out the older staff members. Each conversation revealed another piece of a disturbing pattern. My aunt had systematically rewritten history, our history. According to hotel lore, Lauren had single-handedly conceptualized, funded, and built her first successful property. There was no mention of how we'd spent nights planning at my kitchen table, how I'd handled the financing and regulatory issues while she focused on design, how we'd celebrated together when the first guests arrived. Near the koi pond in the courtyard, I finally cornered Lauren alone. "Why did you exclude me from the ribbon cutting?" I asked directly. Lauren's diamond bracelets clinked as she waved her hand dismissively. "Don't be dramatic, Brittany. This is business, not personal." "Business? I invested $250,000 in you when no one else would. And that money is being returned to you. The paperwork's already been filed, dear. Your original investment amount will be transferred back, nothing more. That's business." Her tone was smooth, practiced. "That wasn't our agreement," I said, struggling to keep my voice even. "We were supposed to be partners." "Were we?" "I don't recall signing anything to that effect." Her smile was glacial. "You should be happy, this hotel is worth millions now. I could have offered you much less." Before I could respond, she was called away by an investor, leaving me standing alone by the rippling water. I watched the koi fish circle endlessly, their orange and white bodies gliding beneath the surface. Just like Lauren. Beautiful on the surface, cold-blooded underneath. She does that to everyone, you know. I turned to find Lauren's daughter, my cousin Melissa, watching me from the shadow of a decorative bamboo grove. We'd been close once before Lauren's divorce changed everything. "Does what?" I asked, though I already knew. "Uses people until they're not useful anymore," Melissa said, stepping onto the moonlit terrace beside me. "You're not the first." "What do you mean?" Melissa sighed, leaning against the railing. "Remember Uncle Jack? Mom's brother-in-law from her first marriage." I nodded. Jack had owned a small but successful restaurant chain. He gave Mom her first job when she moved to Thailand. Taught her everything about the hospitality business. Then once she learned enough, she somehow ended up with controlling interest in his company. He's running a food cart in Phuket now. That's... I couldn't find the words. There've been others. Business partners who suddenly find themselves pushed out just when things get profitable. Melissa looked at me with genuine concern. "Mom does this to everyone who helps her climb. She's ruthless." I felt something harden inside me as Melissa added the final insult. "But don't worry. You're practically family, so maybe she'll be kinder." Practically family. Not actually family despite the blood we shared. Just close enough to be used more thoroughly than the others. I watched Lauren across the room, laughing with people who had no idea what she was capable of. In that moment, something changed inside me. The hurt transformed into resolve. "Thank you for the warning," I told Melissa, my voice steady now. "It's good to know what I'm dealing with." As the party continued around me, I sipped my champagne slowly, my mind suddenly clear. Lauren had taught me a valuable lesson tonight. One she would soon regret. Family or not, some betrayals demand a response. And I had just the right one in mind. The 14-hour flight from Bangkok to Singapore gave me plenty of time to think. By the time I unlocked the door to my apartment, my humiliation had hardened into determination. I dropped my suitcase in the entryway and headed straight to my spare bedroom. This room, usually reserved for occasional guests, was about to serve a very different purpose. I dragged the guest bed against one wall and moved in my desk. By midnight, I had ordered a large whiteboard, 2 cork bulletin boards, and a digital projector. Amazon would deliver everything by noon tomorrow. I opened my laptop and began what would become the most thorough investigation of my career. As a finance executive at Capital Venture Partners, I had access to resources most people didn't. I started by pulling Lauren's hotel company's public records. The business structure was complex, deliberately so I suspected. Lauren had created a web of holding companies and subsidiaries that obscured the true ownership and financial obligations. But untangling complex financial structures was literally my day job. 3 days later, my spare bedroom had transformed. The walls were covered with printouts, property records, supply chain maps, and financial projections. Red string connected key points like something from a detective movie. I'd taken a week of personal leave, telling my boss I needed time for family matters. Technically, that wasn't a lie. A knock at my door interrupted my analysis of the hotel's cash flow statements. "You look terrible," said Ming, my colleague from work's Asia-Pacific division, carrying takeout bags that smelled like heaven. "When's the last time you ate something that didn't come from your coffee machine?" I couldn't remember. Ming set down cartons of noodles and dumplings on the one clear corner of my desk. "So this is your family emergency?" he asked, surveying my war room. "Looks more like you're planning a corporate raid." "Something like that," I admitted, reaching for the noodles. My aunt screwed me over. Between bites, I explained what had happened in Bangkok. Ming listened carefully, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Unlike most of my colleagues who viewed Southeast Asia as one homogeneous market, Ming had spent years working throughout the region. "The land," he said suddenly, pointing to a document I'd pinned up. "That's your leverage point." "What do you mean?" "Most foreign businesses in Thailand don't own their land outright. They lease it long-term. Have you checked who owns the land under your aunt's hotel?" I hadn't. Within hours, we discovered the property sat on land owned by a Mr. Anand Sivanazarn, a respected local businessman whose family had owned the riverside plot for generations. More importantly, the lease was set to expire in just 3 months. "This is it," I said, circling the lease expiration date. "This is my way in." Over the next week, Ming became my unofficial cultural advisor. Between our regular work hours, he taught me crucial Thai business protocols, the importance of kreng jai, consideration for others' feelings, the proper way to show respect to elders, how to navigate the complex social hierarchies. "Business in Thailand isn't just about the best numbers," Ming explained as we practiced proper Y greetings in my living room. "It's about relationships, respect, and saving face. Your aunt may have the better financial offer, but if she's violated cultural norms, then I have an opening," I finished. I booked a flight back to Bangkok for the following week. Before leaving, I incorporated a new company, Phoenix Hospitality Holdings, and transferred a significant portion of my savings into its accounts. This wasn't just about revenge. It was a business move that needed proper capitalization. Mr. Anand agreed to meet me at his home rather than his office, a promising sign Ming had assured me. The traditional teak house sat in a lush garden compound, an oasis of calm in bustling Bangkok. I arrived with a carefully selected gift, a rare tea from Singapore, presented with both hands and a proper Y. "Miss Brittany," Mr. Anand greeted me, his eyes curious but warm. "I was intrigued by your request. Please join me for tea." We sat in his garden pavilion, where a servant brought out the jasmine tea in delicate cups. I waited until we had exchanged pleasantries about my flight and the weather before gently steering the conversation. "I understand my aunt's lease on your property expires soon," I said. "I hope the arrangement has been satisfactory." His smile remained, but something flickered in his eyes. "The financial terms have been acceptable." I noted his careful wording. "Only the financial terms?" Mr. Anand set down his teacup. "Your aunt is a shrewd businesswoman. The hotel is beautiful, profitable. But..." He hesitated. "But not everything can be measured in profit margins," I suggested. "Precisely." He seemed relieved at my understanding. "When we signed the original agreement, there were certain commitments. A training program for local youth. Community access to certain facilities. Preference for local suppliers. Respect for our traditions. None of which materialized, I guessed. The spirits of our ancestors remain in that land," he said quietly. "I had hoped for a business that honored them." I took a chance. "What if I told you I could deliver on those promises? A scholarship dinner for hospitality students. Contracts with local suppliers. Community spaces as originally planned." His eyebrows rose. And you would be able to do this how, exactly? I spent the next hour outlining my vision, not just for wresting control from Lauren but for creating something better. By the time I left, we had the framework of an agreement. He wouldn't renew Lauren's lease. Instead, he would transfer it to Phoenix Hospitality, with specific performance clauses ensuring I kept my promises. The supply chain proved even easier to infiltrate than I'd anticipated. Under the guise of researching my own boutique hotel venture, I met with Lauren's suppliers one by one. The Organic Produce Cooperative had been waiting 90 days for payment. The custom furniture maker had seen his beautiful designs cheapened by last-minute material substitutions. The laundry service was processing double the contracted volume without compensation. She threatens to replace us if we complain, the furniture maker told me in his dusty workshop. Where else can we sell custom pieces already in production? I offered fair terms, prompt payment and proper credit for their craftsmanship. By week's end, I had preliminary agreements with 12 key suppliers. The legal framework came together in a sleek office overlooking Lumpini Park. Kun Supachai, a Harvard-educated attorney specializing in hospitality law, reviewed my growing portfolio of agreements. Your approach is unorthodox but entirely legal, he confirmed, adjusting his glasses. The land lease transfer provides your foundation. The supplier agreements create your walls. And the staff relationships. He smiled. They will be your roof. We identified 3 primary leverage points: the land lease, the supplier network, and the hotel staff, whom Lauren had alienated through imperious management and broken promises. Each alone might not be enough, but together they created an impregnable position. The final piece fell into place unexpectedly. While establishing the digital infrastructure for Phoenix Hospitality, I discovered Lauren had been cutting corners on contract management. Her digital signature system hadn't been properly updated, leaving her agreements vulnerable to verification challenges. Not enough to invalidate them entirely, but enough to create uncertainty and delays, critical weaknesses in the time-sensitive hospitality industry. I documented everything meticulously, ensuring my own documents were pristine while cataloging her vulnerabilities. As I finalized the paperwork for my new holding company, an invitation arrived: Lauren's official grand opening gala, a more public affair following the investors-only event. Perfect timing. I confirmed my attendance with a brief, pleasant note. Let Lauren think I'd accepted my dismissal with good grace. The reality would be much different. As I packed for Bangkok once more, I touched my grandmother's jade pendant. For luck, I whispered, though I was relying on much more than luck now. I was bringing strategy, legitimacy, and the power of being underestimated. Lauren had taught me a valuable lesson about family and business. Now it was time to show her exactly how well I'd learned it. My car pulled up to the Grand Bangkok Hotel's entrance just as the evening sky deepened to indigo. Unlike the investors' preview, tonight's gala welcomed Bangkok society, government officials, and international press. I smoothed the folds of my traditional Thai silk dress, a rich sapphire blue with gold thread embroidery, and took a steadying breath. The dress had been a careful choice. Ming had connected me with a renowned Thai designer who created a modern interpretation of traditional silk patterns. It respected local aesthetics while remaining elegant enough for an international luxury setting. My grandmother's jade pendant completed the look, both a talisman and a statement. As I stepped onto the red carpet, cameras flashed. I wasn't a celebrity, but the dress caught attention. Inside the lobby, transformed now with floating flower arrangements and glittering lights, I noticed the immediate reactions. Several Thai officials nodded approvingly. A group of local businesswomen smiled in recognition of the cultural homage. Lauren stood near the grand staircase in a Valentino gown that probably cost more than most staff members' annual salary. Her expression flickered when she saw me. Surprise, then swift calculation. Brittany. What a lovely costume. Her air kiss didn't quite reach my cheek. It's hand-woven Thai silk, I replied pleasantly. The design honors the Chukri dynasty. A senior government official nearby overheard and turned. Indeed it does. A thoughtful choice, Miss Brittany Chin. I'm Lauren's niece. We chatted briefly about the silk industry's importance to Thailand's heritage. When I glanced back, Lauren had already moved on to greet more prominent guests. Perfect. I circulated through the crowd, stopping to admire a display of traditional Thai instruments. The musician smiled and played a few notes. "Miss Chin." A voice at my elbow. "Your champagne." It was Chef Niren, whom I'd met during my previous visit. According to my research, his original menu featuring elevated Thai cuisine had been largely scrapped in favor of international standards. "Thank you, chef. I've been looking forward to trying your food tonight." His eyes brightened. "You may notice a few special dishes. Not on the original menu, but I took the liberty." He glanced toward Lauren, then back to me. "Sometimes traditions deserve their place at the table, yes." "Absolutely. I can't wait." Throughout the evening, similar encounters followed. The head of housekeeping, Kun Malai, brushed past me with a discreet envelope. "Updated staff roster and contact information," she whispered. "As requested." The maintenance manager caught my eye from across the room and gave a subtle thumbs up. The land transfer documents had been properly filed. My phone vibrated with a text from my operations manager, Raj. "All systems ready. Awaiting your command." I slipped the phone back into my clutch. Everything was in place. The gala reached its crescendo as Lauren ascended the small stage. Spotlights found her and the room quieted. She was in her element, poised, confident, commanding attention. "Distinguished guests, valued partners and friends," she began. "Tonight we celebrate not just a hotel opening, but a vision brought to life through perseverance and commitment." I sipped my champagne watching her performance. She was good. Her voice modulating perfectly between humble and proud, her gestures elegant but not theatrical. "Success in hospitality is built on relationships and trust," she continued. "On honoring commitments and maintaining the values that family instills in us from childhood." I nearly choked on my champagne. Across the room I caught Melissa's eye. My cousin raised an eyebrow, acknowledging the hypocrisy. "That's why I'm thrilled to announce the next phase of our journey together." Lauren's voice rose with excitement. "The Grand Bangkok is just the beginning. Tonight I can reveal our 5-year expansion plan. 3 new properties across Thailand, beginning with a beachfront resort in Phuket breaking ground next month." Murmurs of approval rippled through the investors. But I noticed Mr. Anand's face tightening. This aggressive expansion wasn't part of their understanding, and it would further strain local resources and communities. Our eyes met across the room. He gave an almost imperceptible nod. It was time. While Lauren detailed profit projections and growth metrics, I unlocked my phone and typed a simple message to Raj. "Execute Phoenix Protocol." I watched Lauren counting silently. 3, 1. The first phone buzzed somewhere in the crowd. Then another. And another. Staff members discreetly checking messages. Board members frowning at their screens. Supplier representatives straightening in surprise. Lauren faltered mid-sentence as the wave of whispers began. Her eyes darted around the room, trying to identify the disturbance. "As I was saying," she continued, voice slightly higher, "our projections show a 30% return on." More phones. More murmurs. A board member stood abruptly and exited the room, phone pressed to his ear. The head chef appeared at my side, eyes wide. "Is it true? New contracts with fair hours and cultural holiday allowances." I nodded. "Effective immediately." His face broke into a smile before he composed himself and returned to his professional demeanor. But word spread quickly among the staff. Lauren was losing her audience. The whispers grew louder. An investor approached the stage, urgently gesturing for her attention. "Please everyone," she said, her smile now strained. "If we could just..." Her phone rang. She wouldn't normally answer during a speech, but something in her expression told me she recognized the caller as too important to ignore. She glanced at the screen, then back at the crowd. "A brief pause, please. Enjoy the music." As she stepped away to take the call, chaos erupted in pockets around the room. Investors huddled in urgent discussion. Staff members exchanged disbelieving looks. Supplier representatives who'd been invited as a courtesy were suddenly the center of attention. I remained still, a calm center in the storm I'd created. My champagne glass was nearly empty when Lauren returned to the stage. Her face had lost its polished glow, replaced by something harder and more desperate. "It seems," she said into the microphone, her voice tight, "that there's been some confusion about certain business arrangements." The room quieted, sensing drama. I assure you everything is under control, she continued. We'll sort out these miscommunications privately. Please continue enjoying the evening. But it was too late. An investor approached me directly. Is it true? He demanded. You've acquired the land lease? Lauren's eyes found me across the room. For a moment I saw genuine shock in them. Then her face hardened as she stepped off the stage and cut through the crowd toward me. What have you done? She hissed when she reached me, maintaining her public smile through gritted teeth. With perfect timing, Mr. Anand appeared at my side. Ms. Chin and I have come to an arrangement that better serves the community's interests, he said calmly. The land lease transfer is already filed. Lauren's face paled. That's impossible. We have a contract. Which expires in 3 months, I reminded her. Business is business, isn't that right, Aunt Lauren? The investors gathered around us now, demanding explanations about supplier contracts and operational changes. Lauren's composure was cracking visibly. You can't do this, she said loud enough for others to hear. We're family. I raised my glass in a toast, the jade pendant cool against my skin. Practically family? No, darling. Legally. I took a deliberate sip. I own the land your hotel sits on. I control your supply chain. And I have the staff's loyalty. Now shall we discuss terms? The room fell silent before erupting in a buzz of shocked conversations. Lauren's face cycled through disbelief, rage, and finally, most satisfyingly, fear. Checkmate. The boardroom. 20 minutes. The senior investor from Dubai didn't wait for Lauren's response before turning on his heel. The elegant gala disintegrated rapidly, guests filtering out while staff hovered uncertainly. Lauren managed to maintain a brittle smile as she spoke urgently with her closest allies, but I could see panic in her eyes. Mr. Tanaka would like you to join the meeting as well, said a young assistant, approaching me with nervous deference. Japanese investor Mr. Tanaka was the second largest stakeholder in the hotel. His support would be crucial for either of us. The hotel's boardroom occupied the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Bangkok's glittering nightscape. By the time I arrived, carrying my leather portfolio containing all the documentation, the room was charged with tension. 8 investors sat around the gleaming table with Lauren at the far end, her perfect makeup now slightly smudged from stress. A chair had been left empty directly opposite her. A power play in seating arrangements, forcing us to face each other like opponents. I took it without hesitation. It's nearly midnight, said Mr. Tanaka, checking his watch. But I believe we need clarity before markets open tomorrow. For the next 2 hours, I methodically presented my case. The land lease transfer, supplier contracts, staff agreements. My documentation was impeccable, every move legally sound. Lauren interrupted frequently at first, her composure cracking. This is corporate sabotage, she snapped when I explained how I'd secured the land lease. No, I corrected calmly. It's business. Mr. Anand was under no obligation to renew your lease. He chose a better partner. Her tactics shifted as the night wore on and investors' expressions turned from shock to calculation. By 2 a.m. she had moved from outright denial to desperate bargaining. Brittany, please. Her voice softened, eyes suddenly glistening with tears. We can work together. I never meant to hurt you. You're my sister's child. The Saudi investor who had initially seemed most hostile to me raised an eyebrow at this performance. Lauren had clearly used the family card with him previously, perhaps explaining why he'd invested. You bought out my investment at its original value, I replied evenly. You excluded me from recognition. You told me, and I quote, that's business. I'm simply following your example. The room fell silent. It appears, Mr. Tanaka said finally, that we have a significant change in circumstance. Ms. Chin now controls critical components of this operation. The question is, what happens next? By sunrise, the boardroom had emptied except for 3 of us. Myself, Lauren, and Mr. Wong, a veteran hotel investor from Hong Kong who had requested a private word. He was in his 70s with shrewd eyes that had seen decades of business deals. I've known your aunt for 15 years, he told me, Lauren still within earshot. We partnered on the Macau Royale project in 2010. He glanced at Lauren. A venture that mysteriously restructured just as it became profitable, leaving me with significantly diminished returns. Lauren's face remained impassive, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped her empty coffee cup. I stayed quiet then, Mr. Wong continued. But I watch. I learn. Your business model. He tapped my proposal, emphasizes community integration, staff development, sustainable practices. This is the future of luxury hospitality. He stood, buttoning his impeccable suit jacket. You have my support, Ms. Chen. Sometimes business requires correction. With a slight bow, he left us alone. Lauren and I sat in silence as dawn broke over Bangkok. The city awakened beneath us, street vendors setting up, monks in saffron robes collecting alms, the first water taxis plying the river. I've scheduled a staff breakfast at 7, I said finally. You're welcome to join. She didn't answer and I left her sitting there, staring out at the city that was supposed to be the crown jewel of her empire. The hotel kitchen buzzed with activity when I arrived. Chef Niren looked surprised when I asked for an apron. You want to serve? He asked. I do. The staff breakfast wasn't typically an elegant affair. Usually just coffee and quick bites before the day began. But today the chef had prepared traditional Thai morning dishes alongside Western options. The message was clear. Both traditions had value here. As staff filtered in, surprise registered on their faces seeing me serving alongside the kitchen team. Many approached cautiously, unsure of the power dynamics after last night's revelation. Is it true? Asked a young waitress named Dao. About the new contracts? Yes, I confirmed, serving her coconut rice. Guaranteed time off for important Buddhist holidays. Health benefits extended to family members. Educational stipends. Word spread quickly. The housekeeping staff entered as a group led by Kunmalai. The maintenance crew arrived next, followed by front desk personnel and concierge staff. I set down my serving spoon and addressed them all. I know change brings uncertainty. But I promise you this. Your expertise and dedication will be valued here. Your culture will be respected. Your concerns will be heard. I outlined specific improvements already in motion. The scholarship program for staff family members, the partnership with local universities, the sustainable supply chain initiatives that would benefit Thai producers. Ms. Lauren was not very interested in our ideas, ventured the head bartender. Will this be different? Try me, I challenged with a smile. I'm listening. For the next hour, ideas poured forth. Many insightful, some impractical, all offered with increasing enthusiasm. By the time they dispersed to prepare for the day's guests, something had shifted. The wariness remained. They had been disappointed before, but alongside it grew a tentative hope. That afternoon I knocked on Lauren's penthouse door. I half expected her to refuse to see me, but the door opened immediately. She had changed from her gala gown into silk loungewear, her makeup removed, hair pulled back. She looked both older and more human. Her suite was immaculate except for the bar cart, where a half-empty glass of scotch sat despite the early hour. Come to gloat? She asked, but the venom had drained from her voice, leaving only exhaustion. No. To talk. I declined the drink she offered and sat in one of the modern armchairs overlooking the river. The investors have largely agreed to my restructuring plan. But it requires your cooperation. Or what? You'll throw me out completely? She dropped into the chair opposite me. You could, I suppose. That's what I would do. I know. Something passed between us then. A moment of recognition. How long have you been planning this? She asked. Since the ribbon cutting. About 3 weeks. He gave a short, surprised laugh. 3 weeks. I spent 3 years building this hotel. And I spent 15 years believing we were family, I countered. Lauren studied her scotch. We are family. Family doesn't erase each other's contributions. Family doesn't buy out investments at original value when the agreement was for percentage ownership. Business is. Don't, I cut her off. Don't say, business is business again. You used our family connection when it benefited you, then discarded it when it didn't. That was your choice. She fell silent, then asked softly, so what happens now? I'm offering you a role. The face of the Grand Bangkok. Public relations, guest relations, the social ambassador. You excel at that part. I'll handle operations, finance, and strategic planning. You'd let me stay? Genuine surprise crossed her face. After what I did? Despite what you might think, this isn't just about revenge, I said. It's about building something better. And despite everything, we do share blood. We share history. Lauren studied me with new eyes. You're more like me than I thought, she said finally, unsure whether to be proud or terrified by the revelation. No, I corrected her. I'm what you could have been if you'd understood that real power comes from lifting others, not climbing over them. She absorbed this, then raised her glass in a mockery of a toast. To family business. I didn't return the gesture. The paperwork will be ready tomorrow. Your choice, Lauren. A dignified partnership or a very public exit. As I reached the door, she called after me. Why offer me anything at all? I paused, hand on the doorknob. Because when you helped me get my first finance job, you told me something I never forgot. Success isn't about destroying your competition. It's about being so good they become irrelevant. I'm giving you the chance to remain relevant. I closed the door softly behind me, leaving her to make perhaps the first decision in her life where she didn't hold all the cards. The balanced resolution wasn't perfect. Nothing involving family ever is. But it offered a path forward that acknowledged our shared blood while establishing clear new boundaries. Whether she took it would be her choice. But this time I held the scissors. Lauren signed the partnership agreement the next morning. No fanfare, no photographers. Just the two of us, a notary and our lawyers in the same boardroom where we'd faced off hours earlier. She maintained her composure, but I caught her hand trembling slightly as she handed back the pen. I'll need a week, she said, to adjust to the new arrangement. I nodded. Take the time you need. The hotel runs itself for now. That was 3 months ago. The transition wasn't smooth at first. Nothing involving family ever is. Lauren disappeared to her vacation home in Phuket for those promised 7 days, then returned with a veneer of acceptance that fooled no one. She performed her public duties flawlessly but avoided our scheduled strategy meetings. Staff would tense when we occupied the same room, sensing the unresolved current between us. Meanwhile, I focused on delivering my promises. The unused conference space on the mezzanine level, originally designated for a private club Lauren had planned for elite guests, was my first target for transformation. What exactly are you planning for this space? Mr. Anand asked as we toured the area. Tall windows overlooked the river, and the morning light filled the room with possibility. A hospitality training center, I explained. Open to local youth, especially from underserved communities. Professional skills, language training, internship opportunities. His face brightened. Like the program at the Old Mandarin 30 years ago. The one that launched a generation of Thai hospitality leaders. Exactly, I smiled. But updated for today's industry. Within a month, we'd partnered with Bangkok's top hospitality college. Classroom furniture replaced the planned private bar. The first class of 20 students began their training, bright, eager faces who couldn't afford traditional education but showed natural talent for the industry. Lauren avoided the center entirely for the first few weeks. Then one afternoon I spotted her standing in the doorway during a session on guest relations. The instructor, a veteran hotelier, was struggling to demonstrate the subtle art of making high-end clients feel special without appearing obsequious, a particularly challenging concept to translate across cultures. I held my breath as Lauren hesitated, then stepped forward. Hey, she asked the instructor. What followed was a masterclass in hospitality showmanship. Lauren demonstrated the perfect welcome stance, the ideal handshake pressure, the subtle eye contact that conveyed both respect and confidence. The students were mesmerized. The secret, she told them, is believing completely in the value of what you're offering. If you know in your heart that your service enhances their experience, it's not subservience, it's artistry. After class, I found her in the empty room looking out at the river. You're good at that, I said. Teaching. She didn't turn. I've been in this business 30 years. I should have something to show for it beyond property deeds. It was the first crack in her armor, the first hint that perhaps there were aspects of the business she valued beyond control and profit. We're planning master classes for the advanced students, I ventured. Weekly sessions with industry specialists. She was quiet for so long I thought she'd ignore the implicit invitation. Then, Thursdays might work for my schedule. That small beginning blossomed unexpectedly. Lauren's Thursday sessions became legendary among the students. She was demanding but engaging, drawing on decades of experience to illustrate her lessons with colorful industry stories. For the first time, she seemed to find satisfaction in contributing without controlling. Meanwhile, our other initiatives took root. The weekend market in the hotel's courtyard garden started small. Just 10 local artisans selling handcrafted goods directly to guests. No middleman, no markup from the hotel. By the second month, we had to create a rotation system to accommodate all the vendors who wanted to participate. The guests love it, the front desk manager reported. They're extending their stays to include market days. TripAdvisor ratings have jumped 2 points. More importantly, the market created exactly the community integration we'd promised Mr. Anand. The hotel was no longer a foreign island in Bangkok but a bridge between international visitors and local culture. Our approach caught attention. Ethical Tourism Thailand awarded us their sustainability certification. Luxury travel publications requested features. When Global Travel Monthly, the industry's most prestigious magazine, contacted us for an interview about the hotel's transformation, I knew we'd reached a turning point. They want to focus on the community initiatives and sustainable business model, I told Lauren during our now regular Tuesday meeting. I've arranged for them to speak with me, but I think you should be part of it too. She looked up surprised. You want me in the article? You're still the face of the Grand Bangkok. And you've been instrumental in the training program. I didn't mention that sharing the spotlight was intentional, modeling the collaborative leadership I wished she'd shown me. Lauren studied me for a moment. Thank you, she said simply. The article, when published, featured both of us, the family team revolutionizing luxury hospitality in Thailand. Lauren sent me the link without comment. Progress slow but real. Our most challenging test came in the 4th month, when my mother, Lauren's estranged sister, visited Bangkok. They hadn't spoken directly in nearly 20 years, communicating only through third parties when absolutely necessary. Their rift predated even Lauren's divorce, rooted in old grievances neither would fully explain. Mom had been skeptical about our new arrangement. She'll undermine you the first chance she gets, she warned over the phone. Maybe, I'd acknowledged. But we found a balance that works. The tension was palpable when they first encountered each other in the hotel lobby. My mother stiffened while Lauren's smile froze in place. Helen, Lauren nodded. You look well. Lauren, my mother returned coolly. Brittany says you've been cooperative. Somehow we survived the first dinner. And the second. By the third evening, watching them cautiously navigate conversation, I realized something profound. They were both trying for my sake. Their shared love for me had created the first bridge between them in decades. On my mother's final night, I arranged a private dinner in the chef's garden, where herbs and edible flowers grew on the hotel's rooftop. Under the stars with Bangkok glittering below, Lauren surprised us both. I should have acknowledged Brittany's contribution from the beginning, she said, looking directly at my mother. You raised a daughter with better business sense than I have, and better ethics. My mother's expression softened just slightly. She has your determination. That's not always a bad thing. It wasn't forgiveness, not completely. But it was a beginning. 6 months after the takeover, we were ready for the grand opening that mattered most to me. The community center we'd built in the hotel's East Wing. What had been planned as another shopping arcade for luxury brands was now a multipurpose space for local organizations, educational programs, and cultural exchanges. We gathered in the garden where I'd once been excluded from the ribbon-cutting ceremony. This time, staff members, students, local partners, and yes, investors, formed a circle around the ribbon stretching across the community center's entrance. I stepped forward holding a pair of ceremonial scissors, silver with ribbons tied to the handles just like before. But instead of keeping them, I turned to Lauren. This was your vision once, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. Before profit margins and expansion plans. A place that connected people and honored traditions. I offered her the scissors. I think you should do the honors. Surprise flickered across her face, followed by something deeper. She stepped forward to take the scissors, then paused. She placed her hand over mine instead. Together, she said. This is what we built together. Side by side we approached the ribbon. As we positioned the scissors, Lauren leaned close and whispered, You've built something better than I ever could. I smiled, feeling the weight of my grandmother's jade pendant against my skin. We did it together. That's what family really means. The scissors closed. The ribbon fell. The crowd applauded. And in that moment, standing beside the aunt who had once betrayed me but now stood as my partner, I understood that the legacy we were building wasn't just about hotels or business success. It was about redefining what family could mean, not blind loyalty but earned trust. Not automatic forgiveness but the chance to grow better together. The Grand Bangkok Hotel would continue to welcome guests from around the world. But its true foundation wasn't the land it stood on or the capital that built it. Its foundation was the understanding that the strongest business, like the strongest family, is built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and the courage to begin again when necessary. And that was a legacy worth building.